What's up? What's up? This is Improvement Coach Robert L. Caddy, and I am here with my partner in crime, one time, ma'am.
Sharita Sweet.
Sharita Sweet is in the house. This is the Health of the Nation. We are broadcasting live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of the original Black Wall Street on radio station 89.9 FM KBOB. And we have a great show lined up for you today. It's going to be very informative. Hopefully everyone who is tuned in, you have your pen and paper so you can take some notes. If you don't have your pen and paper, of course, you'll be able to go back and replay this show. We have a very special guest here with us. Of course, all our guests are special, or we don't have them. Everybody we have is special in a very special way. So we're going to allow this lady, ma'am, if you would please go ahead and get ready to introduce yourself, if you would. What's your name?
My name is Bree Wright.
Say it a little louder one time.
My name is Bree Wright.
Okay, Miss Bree Wright, she's in the house.
I'm in the house.
Bree, could you tell us what you do, or tell us a little bit about you, and tell us a little bit about your organization, please?
What I do right now, I do a little bit of everything, right?
Okay.
No, I am a social and emotional integration specialist,
Okay.
for lack of better terms. I'm a therapist. I am also the CEO of the Real Understanding of Bullying and Suicide, or RUBS.
Okay.
We began in 2015, and what I do is I advocate for our community as well as our youth, our adults, for everyone. In the terms of bullying and suicide, I want to make sure that we're informed about the laws in terms of bullying, the statistics in terms of suicide, and how we can get those numbers down, and the seriousness of it. That's the biggest thing.
Okay. So, of course, we know right now that suicide is the numbers are growing as far as different areas within the African American community.
Yes.
And of course, there's a particular area that an alarm has been sounded, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go in depth about that particular area, being African American youth.
Absolutely.
Okay, which has not been an area of concern in the past.
Right.
Okay, I guess not to this degree.
Right.
I would say probably suicide has always been a concern as far as mental health and social issues, but at this particular time in history, the rise in the African American community is something that has been unprecedented. We haven't seen it at this degree. So
Right.
We want you to kind of educate us about that.
Okay.
A little bit and why it is of concern, why it
Okay.
is of concern right now. If you would just tell us why, what about it is alarming as opposed to what it has been in the past.
I think now it's more of a concern, and what's more alarming is the fact that it's being more publicized in terms of, that it's actually happening in our community, in our Black youth. We're in the midst of a pandemic right now, and then with everything else going on, mental health and job loss, the increase of kiddos that are at home all day long, because we were in virtual classrooms, aka the home,
Right.
for almost a year, if not more. Some kiddos are still in the home. So now we have the increase because the anxiety level has raised. They're scared, not just to, be in school, but also, if I go outside, am I gonna get sick? Am I gonna be infected, quote unquote, of something that's going on within the community?
Yeah.
We haven't educated them enough to say, like, it's not something like suicide is not a disease.
Okay.
No.
And we often say, well, when we think about mental health, that's the first thing that comes to our mind. When the first thing we should be thinking about are what are the factors and the causes of mental health,
Okay.
and what gives them that, and I hate to use the word drive, but what gives them that drive to even want to think about harming themselves.
Right.
We often look at peer pressure and we say, oh, well, it's their peers, but we don't look at parental pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't look at school pressure. We don't look at community pressure.
Okay.
So all those things are factors, and that's the reason that we've seen a spike in that, especially in our African American youth. They have more time to each other and themselves more than ever before. Because if you think about it, kids are in school from what 7:30 to 3 o'clock,
Yep.
and their minds are consumed with education, with
Okay.
PE, with
Mhm.
extracurricular activities. Whereas now it's like, hey, log on.
Yeah.
You got a few hours, and then you can log off or
Yeah.
whatever. Or if you finish your work, you don't have to log on at all.
Yep.
So now their minds are wandering, and it's almost like a more of a a spectacle to
Mhm.
them that's saying, do this, do that. Have you thought about this? Have you
Yep.
thought about that? It's almost like that angel and devil on the
Yeah,
shoulder.
exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So I would say that's why. That's the key factor right there.
Mm.
Okay. Sharita, you were mentioning some things about what's going on with the youth in school
Mhm.
and some things that could be helpful as far as the youth getting in a position where they are not so anxietal. When we were talking about just deep breathing and some of the things that we wished were reincorporated in school.
Actually, I just wish, meditation was incorporated in school. I don't think it's ever been really incorporated in Oklahoma schools unless, the teacher took it upon him or herself to put that in within the schoolrooms. But I think meditation would be a great aspect in itself to help with a lot of the mental health. Because as me and Bree were talking before we got on the air, we were really talking about, what was happening with the state of mental health within Oklahoma and how our state is actually handling that. And Bree, you had a couple of great perspectives of what we are doing, what we used to do, what we don't do now in itself, and how that's affecting our teens right now.
Yeah, so I think that what we used to do before is we pay more attention and we kind of recognize the warning signs of what's going on with our kiddos. And now it's just kind of like, oh well, they're having an episode, or it's the craziness in them, and we use those words with our kiddos instead of educating them, because before we had and even like up until the last few years we had facilities and we had the funding and all of those things that were able to give those kiddos and parents resources. Now we just point them to a website or say call this number. But when we decide to let's close this facility down, or mental health isn't something important that we need to discuss, that's when we have an issue, because we have to bring that table, what we dinner time conversations, we have to bring it to the table. We don't ask our kids anymore, what happened today?
Exactly.
How did your day go?
Exactly.
Why do you feel the way you feel? Let me see your phone. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Because we want to be not in their business, and we want to be their friend and not their parent. But we also are making it to where when they're in school, that's your problem.
Right.
And that's where, as educators, it becomes difficult, because we're not only taking on the education piece, but we're also taking on the mental health piece.
Exactly.
And a lot of times educators aren't educated in mental health. That's the same way when we're dealing with officers that are pulling over our males.
Exactly.
They're not educated in how to handle that.
So this kind of sounds like a double whammy, because you have parents who are not educated about mental health.
Yes.
Then you have educators who are not educated about mental health.
Yes.
And so the parents they don't understand the role that they could actually play
Right.
in the mental health of their children, and they're sending them along the way to school to educators who don't have an idea either.
Right. And you have some educators, like I said earlier, like, and I can just speak to a few that I know. I don't know if they'll be mad about me mentioning their names, but like we have strong males in our schools now. We have Jason Gilley, who's the principal at Central, and we have Nate Goodman, who is the athletic director at Central, and Kip Shaw, who's the football coach at Central, and then you have Ebony Johnson, who's been in Tulsa Public Schools for years, that has constantly fed into our youth, and not even just to their athletic abilities or academic abilities, but their mental health. And asking them, how are you today? And genuinely meaning how are you today? I think that we've taken out, when we ask a person, how are you doing today? It's not actually asking them, how are you doing? It's just saying, oh, well, I see you in passing. Hey, how are you? Instead of really thinking about, how are you? What's going on? Because yesterday,
the intention of why I'm doing this. I don't just say, how are you doing?
Right.
I want to know, how are you doing?
I'm literally asking this question for a reason.
Right. And what I think we've gone away from as well is when we see, and that goes with warning signs, when we see how our children look sometimes, if you can look into the eyes of some of these kiddos, they're telling you what's wrong.
Oh yeah.
They just don't know how to verbalize it. So communication is difficult for them. And who wants to tell another adult who they've probably been fearful of all these years, I have something wrong with me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the stigma of actually having a mental issue,
Right.
or dealing with something mental, and that I think is pretty prevalent within the African American community in itself, because we have a history of not showing that. And I was reading an article the other day where psychologists, I think it's psychologists, yeah, psychologists, which are the doctors, I think, are the
Mhm.
ones where the father of psychology in itself used to actually determine, or I guess term, African Americans who wanted to be runaway slaves, a
Mhm.
particular slave that was
Yeah.
that was a particular a word. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that would make more or less make us look like we were all crazy.
Yeah.
You know, that we had a mental issue because we wanted to run away from our slave owners, and so that perpetuated itself throughout psychology in itself.
Mhm.
And so when people, African Americans, would be, saying, well, you need to talk to a psychologist or a therapist or whatever else. They're like, no, because they're going to automatically think I'm crazy. And
Mhm.
it actually is one of those things where it truly is, in the way that psychology looked upon African Americans from the beginning. That's how it was perpetuated. And I never knew that until I read that article
Absolutely.
the other day, because I would hear, people saying, oh, they're going to look at me as crazy, but there's actually some history to that
It
in
is.
itself. And so I think now, where we have enough education, we are getting more and more Black therapists within the United States in general. I think we need to re-educate our own community of
Absolutely.
the importance of therapy,
Yeah.
and getting closer to African American therapists, so we have some of that relation, and not necessarily be so scared, because
Absolutely.
mental health is a part of your daily health. And it's a part of your
Absolutely.
daily help.
And you
and
have
what
to
you have to
feed
do.
it.
Exactly. And if you don't feed it the right way, that's where you start having problems, and that's where
Yep.
your kids start having problems.
Absolutely. And it becomes a generational curse.
Exactly.
And those are things we have to start breaking, generational curses.
Agreed.
And let me interject with a question. Since we're talking about generational curses and just the history of the African American relationship with, the concept of mental health, do you think that, like a lot of these other challenges that they do, basically just begin at home,
Mm-hmm.
and the responsibility of parents,
Yes.
just
Absolutely.
the responsibility of parents, because
Absolutely.
there are things that I've always asked my son,
Mhm.
throughout the day, depending on whatever day he had. There's certain questions I asked for a reason,
Yes.
just to kind of evaluate him mentally.
Mhm.
It wasn't really about just, how was your day? You got homework? Or pretty much an evaluation.
Yeah.
So do you all think that it would be something that needs to be implemented as far as parents, that they need to take a course, that a course could be provided for them by Tulsa Public Schools, or some way by the community or some community organization? Is that something that needs to happen for parents who are interested in the success of their children, the mental health of their children? Should they be invited to a class or something to that degree where they can learn
Mandated.
Yeah.
more?
I mean,
Mandate? It should be a mandate.
I mean, in all
Or
honesty,
make it a mandate, Rob.
Okay,
Make
I'll
it
make it a
happen.
man-
no,
You gotta do it.
Let me explain
Let's
myself.
go.
Let me explain myself. So what I'm saying, a mandate in itself, is that when kids are going into elementary school in itself, a lot of these stressors really start there. And I think it's important that the Tulsa public school system, or any educational system, understands that mental health is going to be so important for that child to be successful. And only way for that to happen, where they have that success, is if the parents are behind it. Meaning the parents understand the signs, the symptoms, the triggers, and all those things.
Mhm.
And so if there was a class that was required of parents, be it virtual, be it whatever, in itself, to say, we need to remind you of these are the certain things we need you to look for in your own student as they're going through our school. We want them to stay healthy mentally, so that they can be successful educationally in itself, which is
Yes.
what I'm supposed to be providing them as a teacher. But I can't do mental health and teach at the same time.
Right.
And so I think that's where I'm saying it's mandated,
Mhm.
and the aspect of saying this is your opportunity to keep your kids sane and healthy as they're going through this process of education.
Yeah. But you, on the flip side of that, I'm gonna play devil's advocate really
Mhm.
fast.
Okay.
You have parents that have never been educated themselves on what mental health is.
Right.
And you are looking at a generation where parents are 14, 15,
True.
16, 17
True.
years old, where they don't understand what mental health is. Their mental health is, and trust me, I'm not saying this to be mean,
No.
but their mental health is, well, my baby daddy not paying child support.
Yeah. No.
And
I get it.
he done walked out on me again.
I
Or,
agree.
I got to take care of this baby by myself. That's where they think mental health is. But if we were able to say, hey, you know what, we're going to offer you this.
Yes.
Would they actually take that help because it's time consuming, and do they really have time for that? And it's also B, now you're insulting my parenting. You're
See?
telling me I
So
need to take
now-
a class
Yeah.
on how to mentally prepare my
My
child
child.
to be
Mhm.
mentally prepared.
So,
Yeah.
so now you go back to that word you said, mandate.
Mandate.
So this is where mandates could possibly come.
Right.
Because,
Well,
'cause-
but when it comes to mental health, that's where it's a tricky fine line
It
there,
is.
because mental health is expensive.
Mhm.
And then they're going to look at it like, well, if I take this class and my child still has issues, that means I'm going to have to get them in therapy,
Mhm.
which therapy is free,
Mhm.
regardless of if they have insurance or not. Any therapist can tell you that we can operate on a sliding scale if your child needs
That is
mental health
so
services.
good to know.
Not just private services are different, but if you take them to a OSU or OU or wherever that mental health is needed,
Yeah.
they have to provide those services
Awesome.
by the state of Oklahoma. That is a law. They
That's
have
good to know.
now. It's not for an extensive amount of time,
Yeah.
but it's at least for a consultation and
Okay.
at least an hour of therapy.
That's
And
good to
some
know.
also will say, well, we'll give you 30 minutes for up to so much time.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to see if, because people's time isn't free. And I'm not saying that.
Definitely.
So for my therapists out there, they're like, Bree's saying that we can get free therapy. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that we do have these big organizations that the government is giving them money for specific mental health services
Interesting.
that they need to be utilizing.
That's awesome. That's good information.
And as we talk about the young parents,
Mhm.
we have to keep in mind that a lot of them have yet to fully develop, right?
Absolutely.
So they have yet to fully develop where they have the capacity to understand really what they're doing as parents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it necessarily has to happen at the age of 14, 15, and 16,
Mhm.
but there should definitely be an introduction.
Absolutely.
And as they move on, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say if I had young children,
Yeah.
it would definitely be something that I need to brush up on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I should be interested in those things. So it doesn't matter 14, 15, 16, 25, 30,
Whatever your
35,
age
40.
is, honestly.
Yeah.
You have to look at what's happening in society.
Absolutely.
And
Because
put
as the
this in
world
perspective.
evolves, so does mental
Yeah,
health.
put these things in
Exactly.
perspective with what the children are up against.
Yes.
What they're up against. So I think
Yes.
that's the message that should be driven home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have this concept. It was similar to the concept where they say you have to. It takes a what is that? It takes a large
A community.
It
community.
takes a village.
It takes
Yeah,
a
it takes a
village.
village,
It
yeah.
takes a village, and we called it the village concept.
Yes.
And it was all about basically parents
Mhm.
getting engaged in the lives of people who they know, getting engaged in all the children. The
Yeah.
kids' lives, not only their own children,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also
The neighborhood kids.
being also checking on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also looking at their state of mind, looking at their performance, looking
Yeah.
and accepting some responsibility to a degree.
Yeah.
If I see your child in a way somewhere, I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I see him with his head down or he looks angry, I mean, I have to accept a degree of responsibility,
Yeah.
as an adult. So I'm thinking that, if we get more adults to accept some responsibility, as it pertains to the lives of the
Mhm.
youth,
Yeah.
and learning how to communicate, I think is a key.
Yeah.
Because times have changed.
Yeah.
They're a little, it
absolutely.
seems, I'm not going to say they're more rebellious. I'm just going to say that times have changed.
And I
Yeah.
think times need to come up with the aspect too, and I agree. I wish the concept of a village still stood here, but it really doesn't, because we are more siloed.
Mhm.
We are more
Absolutely.
siloed in our homes. Our children are siloed in itself in the way that they deal with school, because we're online school
Mhm.
now. And I'm guessing they're probably going to extend that opportunity of being online. And
Mhm.
more students are actually going to online school just because they want to get it done and get it over with. And they have maybe prospered in this pandemic on online school. So I think mental health in general, we probably have to take it to a different level to help our kids, because they become more siloed now than what we have
Right.
in the past. Village, I would love. That was something that was an amazing concept, many years ago, and I think it's something we can still do
Yes.
in itself, in our neighborhoods and in our communities in general. But when it comes to what's impacting that kid at school, at home, while they're studying, that's a silo where they can't, and it's just four walls when they're in that room trying to do that homework or whatever it may be, where they need that assistance in mental health, and they
They
need a
do.
parent to come in or some adult to
Mhm.
say, hey, what's up? What's going on in their head
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
And realistically, Bree, we keep talking about parents. So I guess we're all in agreement that a lot of this begins at home.
It begins.
A lot of this begins at home, but we have to look at the reality of the parenting situation with
Yes.
the youth.
Yeah.
Again, where they may not have parents who are competent,
Yeah.
but also they just may not have parents at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so then what?
You do have, and that's the hard part, because now sometimes you have grandparents that are raising these
Children.
kids, and the respect or lack thereof has changed.
Mhm.
So when you bring up community concept of saying we need to be a village, our kiddos have been taught you don't have to talk to them.
Exactly.
Or if somebody says something to you, it's okay for you to snap back at them.
Mhm.
Whereas when we were younger
Oh my God.
and you talk back to an adult like that, it's like, well, they gonna say something. Then when you get home, your parents are gonna
My grandma
say
was about to kick my butt.
something. And it's like, but now, it's kids are raising themselves, and it's sad. Even if, especially if you want to look at the African American community, you
Yeah.
might have a single mom. And speaking from a single mom perspective, raising a boy, it's not easy.
Yeah.
I'm very, very tough on my child, but
Mhm.
also it's the fact that we don't look at it like mama might have 3 jobs because she has 5 children at home. Some are all under the age of 12, except for one
Right.
who is the other parent, basically.
Right.
So that child is constantly getting in trouble because maybe they're stealing, maybe they're doing whatever they're doing, but they're not doing it because they're bad.
No.
They're doing it because they got to feed brother and sister. Because
Mhm.
mom does have 3 or 4 jobs.
Jobs, but it's
So,
not enough.
Not enough. It's
Yeah.
not enough to cover what they need,
Yep.
and which is also messing with their mental health.
Right.
Yep.
Not only that, but then you have societal pressure. Not
Yeah.
only that, then you have social media pressure.
Yeah.
So then it's like everything that's going on, and then next thing you know, you turn the TV on. Every time you turn the TV on, you see another black kid getting killed,
Exactly.
or or something of that nature.
Yep.
I don't even want to say kid, but a black youth or
Yeah.
somebody in their mid 20s, 30s.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's not just men anymore.
Nope.
We have to say their names over and over, and we're getting tired of it.
Truly.
So our youth are also feeling the pressures of those things that are going on inside the home and outside the home. And so if we embrace them more to say, hey, we have your back,
Yeah.
and really, really mean it,
Mhm.
then I think they'll be more apt to saying, hey, I have an issue. Like saying, hey, Miss Bree, like I'm dealing with this at home.
Mhm.
Or hey, Miss Sharita, I really just, I don't know how to put it into words, but this is what I'm feeling. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Or hey, Coach Caddy, like I really want to tell my mom how I feel, but I know she's going to say, you're just a child and you don't understand what's going on in life. So I don't say anything.
Yeah.
So we have got to give our kids more of a voice
Okay.
and an open opportunity to give us
Okay.
those nuggets that we need from them, so we
Okay.
can do those check-ins on them.
I
Okay.
agree. I
And,
agree.
and I want to throw something out there. As Sharita was talking about this new generation in the siloing,
Mhm.
where everyone is sanctioned off from each other.
Mhm.
And it's something that just from the generation that I came from, it doesn't quite click with me. I don't understand it,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Mhm.
But we know that there are people who are actually being bullied on the internet,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I'm like, I've seen bullying for real.
Mhm.
I remember somebody grabbed me physically,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
somebody's in front of the computer now.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
has led to somebody feeling embarrassed,
Oh,
which
yeah.
has led to
Yes.
someone who has killed himself.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And
As young
I'm-
as
I don't-
5, as
look,
young as 6, 7,
all I can
8.
tell you right now is I don't get it, and I'm gonna ask you to explain it.
Go ahead, Britt.
Social media is one of those things where it's inevitable. So
Mhm.
like we've given them Snapchat, we've given them
Yeah.
Instagram, we've given them Facebook, and
Mhm.
so many other applications that I know nothing about that I've heard of.
And they create their own.
And they, oh my goodness. And I mean, and the things that they're putting out there,
Yeah.
Okay.
we constantly, as women, we
Mhm.
feel like if I can show my body,
Mhm.
maybe I'll get more attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't know that some people on the other side of that screen are saying, well, you're fat, you're
Right.
ugly, you're this, you're that. So me putting myself in if I'm putting myself in an 8-year-old mind frame and I'm putting myself out there on the internet
Yeah.
for somebody to see saying, I feel good about myself, and
Yeah.
they in turn say, you should.
You shouldn't.
Right.
Exactly.
Then it's like, wait, so now you're giving me a reason to think
Mhm.
that I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So those things, like you said, you can physically grab somebody
Mhm.
and that pain goes away
Yeah.
within moments
Yeah.
or days.
Yeah.
But if you keep logging back in and you
Okay.
seeing the same thing that person's saying,
Same.
even if you deleted it,
It still comes
it
back
still
up.
circulates.
Mhm.
That stuff goes on and on and on and
And
on.
it gets passed through, and that's a part of the problem. Is that's
Yeah.
where the bullying is.
That's
that
where it
where
starts.
where one person makes a negative comment about something you thought was beautiful in your own eyes, and then another person tags on to that and then tags it to another
Yes.
social media platform and then another social media platform, and then it gets somehow to some school people that you didn't even know at a whole different school.
Yeah.
And then it all culminates where you're reading all of these comments, and then your mind is saying, oh my gosh, I am stupid, ugly, fat, whatever it may be, based off of those comments. And those are internalized comments that never leave you. When someone grabs you or punches you, that's a physical thing that you can push yourself away from, and you can run away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's like once upon a time, you know, you're on the playground,
Yeah.
you get in a fight,
That's it.
you win or
Yeah,
you lose,
you win,
and you might be friends
and everybody was there.
Yep.
They saw it.
Yep.
But now it's like the pressure of millions.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
you can get into a fight on
just
the
about
playground.
everybody around
Yep.
the world.
Right.
Just the thought of thinking that not just my class saw
Yeah.
it,
Absolutely.
but now we're talking about millions of people have seen me
if you
humiliated.
if you can think about those, maybe 20 people that were around while that fight was going on, and after that, that was it, right? Now you have those 20 people that were around with their phones out, recording it.
Okay. So
And guess what?
this is
Now
replayed.
it's just going over and over and over. So, you know, you
It
had the
goes
fight,
viral.
it was over.
Yeah.
Now it's viral.
So viral humiliation.
Yeah.
Did we just make that up?
You well, hey, but that's
Viral.
what.
So let's just list
So you
that
gonna
as one of
coin
the
that
reasons.
term,
Viral humiliation is
Wow.
leading to
Y'all know he be
some of these
coining
challenges.
terms.
Okay.
Always.
Viral humiliation. Okay. So
But yeah.
I've learned something.
Yeah.
You know,
And we
because
taught you
I didn't
we
get
done
it.
taught him.
What, we taught him something?
I didn't get.
Oh
I've
my
been.
gosh.
Look, my wheels has been turning for years trying to figure out
Yes.
what is leading to people being bullied on the internet to the
Absolutely.
point
But
of
you
wanting
have
to
to
take
think
their own
about it
lives.
now. There are laws that mandate that
There you go.
we do not educate ourselves on. That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Educate.
there are definitely laws against recording physical altercations, especially if it happened on the grounds of a school.
Okay.
If you record a fight, young people, and you and heaven forbid that person dies,
Yeah. Yeah.
you are going to be prosecuted, whether you were the one fighting or you were the one recording.
Because you didn't intervene? Is that
Because
the-
you didn't, not only did you not intervene, but you recorded a murder.
Interesting.
If somebody got killed during a fight,
Mhm.
that's what happened. If you guys remember the young lady, and every time I do a presentation, this is one of the ones that I always talk about.
Yeah.
The young lady that got jumped on in school, and
Okay.
they beat her up in the bathroom,
Wow.
and
I
they
didn't
hit her
see it.
head on the
Wow.
sink,
Wow.
and they killed her.
I'm glad I didn't see that.
And the two girls were recording, and the one girl fight. All three of those girls were prosecuted
Wow.
because not only did they not intervene, but you are now you're
You're
a
accomplice.
witness and you're an accomplice to a murder.
Wow.
And it sounds crazy. They're like, oh yeah, whatever. Look it up. I'm telling you, and,
Wow.
and I'll find the link to it and send it to you.
Okay. Oh,
But I'm telling you, it happened, and it was so sad because the little girl. It was over the fact that she made, I guess, a little boy her man crush Monday or something, and the little girl used to like the boy or date the boy.
Stupid
or
stuff.
Very stupid.
So-
You know, like for us, we say that's
Yeah.
stupid,
Yeah,
but then
but for
it's
them,
like
that's life.
that's life for them.
Seriously.
And you know, like, but again, you don't have parents that are into, and I'm gonna go back to the parents.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna be mad at me, but you don't have parents that are intervening and saying, "Let me see your phone. Let me," because let me tell you, I'll take my son's phone in a minute and say, "Who you talking to?
Yeah.
What we talking about?
Yeah.
What, you know?" Because I don't want you to be in your room, sitting around reading stuff on the internet and all that stuff, where you're trapped in your room all day long.
That's
Because
another thing.
you know, like, I used to let my son do his homework in his room,
Mhm.
close door, be relaxed, you know, because I get it. You're in a pandemic, it's
Mhm.
already too much pressure. And then it's like, no, I'm not seeing you all day long.
There you go.
So you're going to come out here so
Mhm.
where we can see some foot traffic going on. But
Mhm.
not only that, we need to be able to see, what are your kids doing? Because, yeah, they are on a school-given computer, but I tell you what, these kids know how to manipulate that
so
where
well
they can get on whatever it is
while they're still
while
in
they're
class.
still in
And
class.
let me ask this question, Bree. As far as the recording, which I
Yes.
didn't know, but I guess that's a good thing. But do they make the students put their phones up now? Because that's a lot of temptation not to record.
Well, technically they make them put it up,
I do,
but
but they don't. But they
No,
don't.
they
But they're
don't.
supposed to.
They're not supposed to have them in school.
Okay.
But you know, a lot of the, well, as long as they're not using it in class, or if
Okay.
they're only using it during passing period
Okay.
or whatever. But if a student uses their phone, so say Sharita's bullying me, and I want to call my cousins because
Yeah.
they, you know, they're street.
They will come
the-
up and
to
kick
the-
my butt.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I use that phone and call those people up there, and then they come up on property,
Mm-hmm.
then now I'm going to be in trouble because that's the telecommunications law,
Mm-hmm.
per Oklahoma state law, that
Mhm.
you cannot use your phone if it's for, you know, like conflict purposes.
Right.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of big wording in there, but to
Mhm.
break
Yeah.
it down, if it's for conflict purposes, you cannot use your cellular device
So it's-
or any type of telecommunication device. So
So
your
is it
computer.
just supposed to be for emergencies? I know we have, you know, we're in the age of school shootings and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's okay for those situations.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be for
Okay.
emergencies, and you know most schools don't.
That's a lot of
They're not
temptation.
against. Yeah, they're not against you having your phone because
Mhm.
that's the times and ages in which we're in.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, like I know that I tell my son, you know, text me when you get to work, text me
Yeah.
when you get home, text me when you get to
Safety.
school. So it's a safety issue for us as parents,
Yeah.
but you know, these kids are going to use it for a little bit
Now,
more.
now let me ask you this, and we can come up with another phrase here. Is there such
Oh,
thing?
Lord bless us.
Is there such thing as virtual integrity? We need to teach these kids some virtual integrity. So it's like if somebody's getting beat up, you know, I mean, let's go through the effects of what could happen in that child's life, in that person's life, how it could actually change the course of their whole life. Just you pulling your phone out and recording this incident and
Agreed.
sharing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because we can't take the phones away
Right.
because of the times that we're in and what the
Yes.
reasons they may need it.
Right.
But maybe if we just get them to start to implement, have some, you know, some virtual integrity.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know, I
yeah.
mean, because you're taking pictures of your friends, you're going to share that's the age we're in.
Yeah.
But nobody needs to be recorded getting beat up or, you know, none of any of these things.
Well,
And it's going to be hard to
it's
stop
not just,
it to a
but
degree.
you know, you got to think about it. It's not just them getting beat up;
Mhm.
they're
No.
doing other stuff.
And,
too.
Yeah.
indeed,
I
indeed.
mean, like,
and I just say I just say the temptation for the children.
yeah,
Adults can't stop doing it.
right.
Every damn thing they do that don't mean nothing. So
Truly.
you know the kids are struggling.
But see, here's the thing: if you want to your virtual integrity,
Right.
Okay, but that also starts at home. We
Okay.
have to
Yes.
feed into our kids
Mhm.
because if you strengthen their mind here, all that other stuff isn't going to phase
Mhm.
them.
Truly.
You know, like I remember my daddy used to say, if you know you get to a fight, you better not come home if you got beat up. You know how that
Okay.
is. But nobody was recording back
No.
then.
Mhm.
But also, it was, and we laugh about it now. But seriously, now we don't like build our kids up
Mhm.
to say, who cares what they say?
Exactly.
You know, like, are you that? Are you ugly? Are
Yeah.
you fat? Are you know?
So, and being in an age where we have a generation, I mean, anyone could have low self-esteem,
True.
Yes.
low levels of confidence,
True.
and it could just go to different levels from there.
Yes.
Basically, so we have a lot of these situations, and something I was actually thinking about, I wanted to bring it up before we got off the air, just really put in perspective the effects of the culture,
Mhm.
okay, and how the culture has evolved. And I always think about when we were growing up, and of course we had the dozens, right? It was the dozens. Your mama so black, your mama hair so short, you know, you got pro wings on, your high waters, bell bottoms, blah blah
Give him.
blah.
My
I'm just saying,
gosh.
but these things,
Yeah.
you know, it's a part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Mhm.
think about popular culture, and I think about the music, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
so just the culture in general. I mean, this is culture that we're engaged in to a degree,
Yeah.
Yes.
because I mean, it could be the music, could be the TV show, especially the music, right?
Yeah.
I always say
Yeah.
the subject matter of the music is pretty damn simple, right? I got something you don't.
Yeah.
I got a chain you don't.
Yeah.
I got girls you don't. I
Yeah.
got clothes you don't. So
Yeah.
basically, we're grown people absorbing this.
Yes.
And so how the hell do we tell the kids that this is not the way? I'm somebody because I got something and you don't have something, so you're not somebody.
Right.
So how do you put this in perspective? This is the culture that we're engaged in, that we have our children absorbing as well.
Well, it
So
starts
if
with
you
the
don't
adults
explain,
again.
Yeah.
so we're going to say it is my responsibility to explain
Yeah.
what's going on here before you get engaged.
Right.
Or let's just say they don't have the parents who have the capacity to explain it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
now it becomes who? The educator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has
Okay.
to be, or the community. But if the educator, yes, but more so they're going to listen to the community.
Okay.
So if the community is saying, well, if I got something and they don't, then
Mhm.
go get it. If we're
Mhm.
not giving them well, you don't need that to be successful.
Okay.
Right.
You don't need that to be intelligent. You
Okay.
don't need that to, but we're not. We're saying you have you got those shoes
Yeah.
and you want them,
That's
Yeah.
it.
you go get them.
Look,
Yeah.
man, you've been in line all night to get Jordans.
Yeah.
And you ain't got none.
Yeah.
So then
This-
you
this
go,
is
so then
important.
you say, well, you know what? Then I'm gonna figure out how to go get them.
Exactly.
And it's not saying, well, I don't need those. It's saying,
Let me
okay, now you told me that I don't have. I'm gonna show you that I can
just
get
get
them.
'em.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or
challenge.
you know, like if I could tell you how many times I've went into a home where I've had parents say, I mean, talk down on their kids
Mhm.
bad. You know, oh yeah, you know he got ADHD, or you know
Oh,
he has
dear.
this. You know he take medicine. You know he.
Wow.
And it's like, you are the problem. That's
Okay.
where I see the problem is.
Okay.
It's not this baby over here who
Mhm.
doesn't understand, but because kids are sponges and they
Yes.
absorb everything.
Right.
Yes.
But here's the problem: we're adults that are sponges that absorb
Right.
everything too.
But we put that sponge and soak
And-
everything back onto
And then
our
we
kids.
want to squeeze it out on our kids
Yeah.
and say, well,
So-
my mama didn't do this,
Yep.
and when they really did. But like you said, we're in a societal embracing now that where it's like, oh, it's okay if you do this, or it's okay if you do that, or if you dress this way, if you dress that, like it is okay. You know, like I have younger sisters,
Mhm.
they're in their 20s, and sometimes I say, why do y'all dress this way? Why do
Uh-huh.
y'all talk this way?
Right.
Why do you guys,
Yeah.
and you know, it's just like, then you turn TV on. They're not,
Right.
we used to
Yeah.
look at BET
Yeah,
and we
I
would
know.
see,
Yeah.
you know, Donnie Simpson on
Mhm,
Midnight Love and
mhm,
stuff like that. But then now all it is drugs, sex, and
Yeah.
money. That's
Nothing
it.
makes sense till you watch TV.
At all.
Oh, that's where that came.
That's
Oh.
where it came from.
And this,
then,
I ain't talking about kids. I'm talking about grown people.
yeah, and
I
then
don't know
the
what the
kids
hell's
say
going
stuff,
on.
and then
Where
you're
the hell
like,
did this come from?
what does that mean? You know,
Wow.
when they start saying stuff, I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, they start using words like entanglement and it hit
Yeah.
different, and it. I'm like,
I mean, and
what does this
Cancel
mean?
culture.
I mean, and
all
so
that stuff.
the slang. I don't know if that's as bad an issue as
Yes,
the
it
level
is.
of self confidence.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
because we came out of a generation again.
Mhm.
I mean, and it shaped us. People
Yeah.
felt the way
Mhm.
if they didn't have what quote
Other
unquote the
people
cool
had.
people had.
Yeah.
You know, then you were kind of cast into a certain area, a certain
True.
zone, and it led to some challenges for people with their self confidence.
Agreed.
And these
Right.
people grew up and they became adults. I mean, we know that I know people who were bullies
Yes.
who the fact that they were bullies, it had an effect upon their adult life.
Yes.
And I know people who were bullied
Mhm.
and it had an effect upon their life.
Right.
Their lives could have turned out different had they not experienced what they experienced as kids, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So-
but why do kids bully? Why do you think kids bully other kids?
From what I've learned about bullying is this. I mean, and this is a very simple phrase and just say, hurt people hurt people.
There you go.
You know, one, not only do hurt people, but scary people hurt people. You know why? Because I don't want nobody to expose me, so I'm gonna expose you before you say something to me.
Absolutely
So
true.
that's what I learned
That's
about
true.
a lot of the people who I was growing up with, who I seen who were bullying people.
Yes.
They were very insecure,
Mhm.
and they were very insecure because of what we're talking about.
yes.
I don't have what you
The
have.
materialistic
I don't
things.
look the way you look. You got two parents. I don't have none. I have one. You have those clothes. I have none. You know, so
Yeah.
that led to them feeling away, having low self-esteem, insecurity, and also, of course, the relationships at home with their parents too.
Yes.
You know, because you can have. I mean, there were angry parents, right?
Yes.
I mean, I met some bullies' parents, and man, I remember.
yeah.
Boy, they was mad.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were angry.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
glad that wasn't my mom. That's all I can say.
Well, and you know, we look at discipline as bullying
Mhm.
now because you don't have parents that discipline their children. But not only that, but it's like you said, when you think about before, and we had the dozens, and you know, you
Mhm.
talk about what you know, but now you don't have where before you would never go and tell a kid you should go kill yourself,
No.
or you should go do, you know, like you should do this, you should do that.
Yeah,
No,
no.
you know, like you have kids say you should go home and do this, and
Yep.
guess what? They go home and,
And
do
they
it.
do it.
They go home and do it, and so like you said, hurt people do hurt people, but when are we going to get to the root of the hurt and say it's okay that you were hurt, but it's
Right.
also okay that you can be healed?
Right.
That's what we need to get to the root of the whole issue.
So let's get to the point where we understand that people fall down, right?
Right.
And you scrape up your knee and you bleed, and you get up and you put a patch on it and you
Right.
keep moving.
You experience some discomfort.
There's going to be some discomfort. I mean, this is just life.
Yes.
You know, you win some fights, you lose some, you
Yeah.
get beat up. You know, I mean, this is just life. So if you can get the
Absolutely.
kids to understand that, or the youth to understand that, I think it could be helpful,
Absolutely.
you know. But again, you like you're saying, we're in this age, this virtual age, where every time a person falls, you know, let's just say I'm gonna jump in their shoes.
Okay.
I want to think about when I was running and I fell down, scraped my knee up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's just say I got on the internet and if somebody's playing it over and over again, oh look at Robert, he fell down again. Everybody's having fun with it.
Yeah.
How would I feel?
Right.
You know, I would probably feel away.
Exactly.
You
I wouldn't
would.
like that.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
so we have to, I guess, rise to a level of understanding
Exactly.
as far as what they
Yes.
may be dealing with.
There you go.
You know, we have to get in their shoes.
Yeah.
I
We
think that's
do.
important.
We
Agree.
do. And that goes back to asking, how was your
You
day?
did.
Mhm.
It's
Like-
basic.
And then, like, I remember my mom asking, like, if I said, Mama, can I go spend the night over so-and-so's house?
Yeah.
First of all, it was no.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna spend the night nowhere.
Mhm.
But can I go over or even if it's can I go over so-and-so's house?
Mhm.
Well, who are they?
There
Who are
you
they,
go.
mama? Who's in that house?
There you
How
go.
many brothers and sisters do they have? And I'm
Yep.
just like, by the time you finish questioning,
You
y'all
like,
won't
oh,
go no
no.
more. But we don't ask those pertinent questions.
Not
You
anymore.
know, like if I'm Sharita's sister and we're like, okay, sis, we want to go over so and so's house, but we already know Mama gonna ask all these questions. We have to ask ourselves, are we really wanting to go or not?
Exactly.
Because it's like now you don't know, like when you allow your kiddos to go into other folks' homes
Yeah.
and those folks are dealing with whatever,
Mhm.
and then they're exposed to so much,
Yep.
you've already put a situation within your child that they
Yeah.
may have never experienced.
Never.
Whether they have a 2-parent home or 1-parent home, whatever, but it's like you go into this other home where they doing a lot of stuff that you
Right.
aren't used to seeing,
Yep.
and then that makes you question, well, why is that not going on in my house, good or bad?
Exactly.
And therefore, it's just like we have to be careful of who we're allowing our kids to expose
Mhm.
themselves to.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're going to see their peers at
Yeah.
school, but sometimes that needs to be the end of that
Right,
interaction
right,
right.
at school.
Yeah.
Because if you don't you can't control what goes on in other people's homes,
Mhm.
but sometimes other people's homes are broken.
Oh yeah.
And you don't want them to bring that energy because
Mhm.
energy is important.
Yep.
Mhm.
You don't want them to bring that energy back into your home.
And they will.
And they definitely will. And
Yep.
that big saying right now is keep that same
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of kids, they come home and they start talking crazy to their
Right.
parents because they were over there with whoever,
Right.
and they talk to their parents any type of
Yeah.
way because they
Mhm.
got that parent friendship.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, you're not gonna come home and talk like that. But then parents are like, well, maybe I should let my kids talk
Yeah.
to me like that.
Millennium Parenting Conference.
Huh?
Millennium Parenting, because the parents are up against some things
Are
that
you're gonna get this
Are you-
conference
yeah,
together?
that's what I'm trying to
no,
figure
Bree's
out where
going to
you're
do it.
going.
Rubs,
I'm
is,
going.
Rubs
Okay.
is going to put this together
Okay,
because we
well,
understand
Well,
the
that's
foundation for a lot of things that we're talking about is the
Go give me
parents.
some money.
I mean, because they
Absolutely.
need everything that we're talking about. They need it in a way, you know. I mean, and it needs to be presented where they want to
It
come.
does.
You know, there's a very simple question. You know, when I was doing mentoring and I would talk with parents, it was very simple. I was like, do you want him to be successful or do you want him to go to the penitentiary? That's all I want to know. Yes or no?
Well, you can't.
I mean, and that's the question. I mean,
What's the in
no,
between?
no,
That's
it wasn't.
exactly-
It wasn't one. I mean, that's how I would communicate. That's just. I mean, because it was a very tough environment,
Okay.
a very tough community.
Okay.
So, I mean, we just wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of it. Is this what? Because this is if the success is what you want, then this has to happen. These
Right.
things has to
Can't
happen.
have that
These
pipeline of
things
prison
cannot happen.
mentality.
Right.
You know, this can happen. You can't do that. You can't do. These are the things that must MUST happen.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, you know, as you develop something, develop this conference, or you develop this concept, you know, for parents to come who
Yeah.
want success for their children.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I think that's something that needs to happen.
I did a let's talk about it seminar
Mhm.
with our teenage girls a couple of
Okay.
years ago, and we talked about everything from bullying, from virtual bullying and all
Mhm.
that stuff to sexual bullying
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
relationship bullying, and then we talked about financial literacy, and we
Okay.
talked, those are things that we have to pour into our youth because our kiddos do not know how to balance a checkbook,
Oh yeah.
let alone balance funds
Yeah.
or know how to save money, but they also don't know how to handle relationships. They think that if my boyfriend or my girlfriend tells me that I have to do this in order to keep them, then that's what I have to do. Then that's what they're gonna do. So
Mhm.
we talked about
Mhm.
like the known bullying, which is in-person physical bullying,
Mhm.
and we talked about social media and all that, but we don't hardly talk about relational bullying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the hardest thing with our youth right now. They pour so much into their boyfriends and girlfriends,
Yep.
Okay.
or their girlfriends and girlfriends, or their
Mhm.
boyfriends and boyfriends, because this is the time we're in, and it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we aren't giving our kiddos the advice on how to have a successful relationship.
There you go.
Successful relationships don't make you do anything you don't want to do.
Exactly.
And if you don't want to do it, it's okay to say, I don't want to do this right
Exactly.
now. And it's okay to say, well, maybe we need to wait.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if that other person is saying, well, if you really love me,
yeah.
then this is what you'll do, then no, that's
Mhm.
not a successful, and that's definitely not a healthy relationship.
Right.
But we're not teaching our kiddos that, because again, that goes back to that sponge
Right.
mentality
Yeah.
that they're seeing at home.
Right.
Mama's doing this because we got boyfriend
Mm-hmm.
this week, we got
Well,
boyfriend
Mhm.
next week. I mean, it's like
They
let's
model
just,
what's at the house.
and the
and they
culture.
think-
Yeah.
and-
I mean, the culture
that's
supports
just
it, right?
what we do.
I mean,
And we're like, well, listen, I mean, if it's not a boyfriend, if they're
man,
just
what did that song just get through saying that they listened to all the way to school? What was it saying?
Yeah.
Do?
Mm.
What was
The-
it saying?
the
Do
whole
to keep
time.
it?
Yeah, it's true.
the whole time.
True.
The whole time. And like you have these young girls out here, they working and doing whatever it is, and you like, where your money go?
Yeah. Yeah.
To my boyfriend.
Yep. I wanted to help
It was
him.
our anniversary
Yeah.
today.
Yep. I bought him some new Jordans. He's
Yeah.
got the new
So-
PS5.
So I mean, just and I want to think about this when you were talking about broken homes.
Yes.
I could, I grew up in. I was blessed to grow up in a home with my mother and my father. There was never a day where I didn't see both of my parents
Yes.
growing up.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of friends in there, and their lives were different. Their homes were different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even when I went there, when I came back home, of course, my mom, she always had the phrase, leave the streets in the streets.
Yeah.
So that was like, whatever slang you got or whatever you got, leave that out there,
Mhm.
And when I went to those places, I never brought that back with me. They just didn't allow it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So talking about that, where the kids go and how they can, absorb a lot of things. Again, we go back to the parenting.
Mhm.
We go back to the parenting, and when we talk about the parenting, we also have to look at the self-confidence of the parents,
Yeah.
because they can have low self-confidence too.
True.
Yeah.
They could be depressed.
They're
Yeah.
looking for
You know?
validation as well.
Right. I mean, and the kids, again, they're looking at the behavior of the parents. And that's why I keep
Yeah.
leaning on this concept of millennium parenting, or these conferences where the parents can come. Because one of the things, again, with as I mentored over the years and worked with kids, one thing I always thought about is that the 2 hours that I spent with that child, he has 22 other hours to go, and it can be unraveled, and it will be unraveled.
Yeah.
This is just what, an hour, maybe
Yeah.
30 minutes,
Yeah.
and he's getting ready to go back to an environment to absorb everything that goes
Yes.
against what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, if you don't get to the parents or find a way
Yeah.
to get them engaged,
Yeah.
I think that's where a think tank needs to be created to find ways to get parents involved.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We're not talking about well-to-do parents who went to
No,
college and
no,
who think,
no,
but
no.
we're talking about people who have had some challenges,
Yeah.
who may have started their career as a parent at the age of 14,
14, 15, yeah.
12, 13, 15, 16. And they may have started it in an environment that it wasn't
Absolutely.
it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
all of these challenges, I think finding a way to get those parents interested, and that's why I was just
Yeah.
really straight to the point.
Yeah.
Do you want them to win or not?
Yeah.
If you don't want them to win, don't talk to me. And of course,
I create
and
winners,
of
and
course,
that's it.
and of course, nobody's gonna say, I don't care if you go to, I don't care
Well,
if they
you
win.
might now.
you
They
know.
might tell you they don't
Yeah.
care.
I mean, and if you get that, that parent is probably having some challenges as well
Mhm.
with their, self
But
confidence
why
and
don't?
things of that
But
nature.
but sometimes we might have to ask the parent, do you want to win?
Exactly.
I mean, we
That's
gotta
why
ask-
you coming,
Yeah.
right?
And the
That's
thing is,
Parents who
It-
want to win, you need to
if-
be here. Do you or
Truly,
don't you?
no, and it's
But
not a
you do.
joke. It's true.
But if
Mhm.
we can have those conversations without offending, it would be perfect.
Right.
But see, and
But-
that's where you have to normalize mental health,
Absolutely.
and we have not normalized it.
We haven't.
in the portions of our country who are the workers, as you want to call them, the
Mhm.
people who are impoverished in one way or the other, who low economics, whatever you want to call it. Within the worker situation, we don't normalize mental health. We don't
Okay.
normalize going to a therapist whatsoever. We don't
I'm
put that as a
telling you.
part of our everyday. Now, if we are considered what is it, the white collar people, the
Mhm.
people who make the money, the people who own the companies or whatever, that's a normal process. Half of them talk to a therapist, are guided by some type of body who is in a therapy position almost on a daily or weekly basis.
And they
in
don't
itself.
think that they do.
And
They're
it's
seeing
normal.
somebody.
They are always seeing somebody, because I actually, with my organization in itself, I have the opportunity to speak to someone to guide me in a portion of the organization that I am working in itself.
Yeah.
And it's just a conversation that we have, and we're just talking or whatever else. But in reality, he's actually a therapist,
Right.
and he's just
Yes.
guiding me and making sure that I'm staying in my professional
Right.
lanes and doing whatever else.
Right.
So they all have therapists in one way or the other.
Mhm.
But we,
Yes.
as the economically disadvantaged, we have never normalized it in itself in that same respect. And
Then
I
I
think
have
once
some-
we do,
Yeah.
then we are be able to impact those parents a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
and I mean,
thoughts.
you use the big C word, communication.
Yeah.
Like we can communicate that. If we have a communicative conversation,
Mhm.
and don't look at it as therapy, because I'll be the first to tell you, as a therapist, I see a therapist,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I have no problem with that.
Mhm.
Yep.
Because sometimes I just need to emotionally
Right.
unload. That's a term my
Mhm.
therapist and I use all the time.
There you go.
I need to emotionally unload.
Man.
And so sometimes you need to go talk to a person that doesn't have any ties with you. Or
Exactly.
you talking to your sweetheart is
Your
not
best
therapy,
friends.
because
And-
they're
and-
gonna tell you you're not wrong.
Right.
They're gonna
And-
tell you,
And I'll tell you this, as a trainer, I talk about a hell of a lot more than just training.
well, we
Uh-huh.
know that.
Yes.
You know, and it's I always think about what a lot of psychiatrists do.
Yeah.
And it's like you get an opportunity to really talk to yourself. You get an opportunity to
Yes.
say things aloud that you usually would not say,
it loud.
and
Mhm.
everybody needs that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
need a comfortable place to say these
A
things.
safe place.
You
It
know.
has to be safe. If we don't feel safe, we're not gonna open up.
Yeah, safety is
And
important.
That's why we are so easy to tell people, like, they say we have those barbershop conversations or
Mhm.
abuse salon conversations, because
Mhm.
we know, we may not see these people
Right.
again,
Ever
but
again.
it's also like a way to say, whew,
Exactly.
this is what's going on.
Mhm.
And
Decompress.
however
Mhm.
it comes out
Mhm.
is however they're going to receive it, but it
Mhm.
doesn't matter because I'm getting it out,
Exactly.
and we need to give that opportunity
To
to
our kids.
people and to our kids to say, you know what, do you need to I've asked my son, do you want to see a therapist for
Okay.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
to emotionally unload?
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, Bree, because I know you work in the field of education, public education.
Yes.
Do you feel that, or do you think that the counselors who are available are they actually counseling? Are they actually asking the questions that allow the youth, the children, to open up and talk?
Y'all don't be mad at me.
No,
No,
I mean, because I
Tell
already
me,
have
my
my
counselor
thoughts.
friends, some of us are, and
Okay, some of us are
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So I can give you both sides. Some are
Okay.
saying if they got sent to the counselor's office by their teacher because they were asleep in class or they were mouthing off or whatever,
Mhm.
the only question going to be asked is, why are you acting like this? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Okay.
And they could just say, oh, well, Susie over here threw her pencil at me and the teacher just saw me retaliate.
Mhm.
And they, okay, well, don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or you have that counselor that says, if you need to tell me what's going on, I'm here
Mhm.
for you to tell me what's
Mhm.
going on, and I'm not going to allow you to leave my office.
Until.
So when I have kiddos in my office, I say, until I feel like you're okay,
Yeah.
you're going to sit in here.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not a punishment thing.
Mhm.
It's
No.
not a discipline thing. It's if you leave out of here with the same situation and attitude that you did
Mindset.
coming in here, I didn't do my job.
And-
Yeah.
and There's
So,
something else going on,
It's
right?
something else going on because you have people that are emotionally able to talk, and you
Mhm.
have some that are just not. So they may cry a lot or they
Yep.
may, lash out. But if you look at the background to why they're doing it or when it started,
Right.
like start tracking
Mhm.
those things. So in the profession world of counseling, if we look at the track history,
Mhm.
we can see, well, this didn't start until this happened,
Yeah.
Okay.
or this didn't start till that happened. Like now you have dads raising daughters, and you have mothers raising sons.
Mhm.
And so as a woman, I don't know the testosterone,
Mhm. Mhm.
I made that word up,
The dynamic.
that goes on within a male's inside,
True.
right?
True. True.
So I'm like, why are you acting like this all of a sudden? Like, don't make me jack you up, or,
Right.
But also, I'm learning. My voice is getting deeper.
Yeah.
I'm growing hair in places I didn't think was supposed
Mhm.
to be there, and
Yep.
girls are saying this to me, and,
Yeah.
and boys are saying this to me, or
Mhm.
whatever. And
So just that balance. The
and
balance
so
is supposed to be there.
sometimes there's kiddos that they don't have that support to
Okay,
say it's
don't have that
okay to
support.
talk.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately in the Black community, we
Mhm.
don't go tell them people our business.
business.
Right.
don't go
Yep.
tell those people our bit. What happens in this house
Right.
stays in this house.
Yep.
And so that's why a lot of times our kiddos are scared to talk to someone.
And I'll ask you this, Bree, as a counselor, um, just looking at a student, right?
Yes.
Just looking at the youth sometime. Um, can you tell if
Yes.
right? So you can look, even if they don't say it, you can see it, right?
Yes.
You
If
can see it
you
in
walk
their
into a
face, you can see it in their
classroom today,
eyes.
if you walk into a classroom today and just skim the room, and you'll see some kids that are just doing their work, they're
Yeah.
talking to their friends, and then you'll see that one or two, three, that kiddo that's just
Mhm.
sitting there and they're doing their work, but they're not talking.
Yeah, they're dead in the eyes.
And you might say, well, what's wrong? Oh, I'm just tired. I
Tired of what?
always look at it
What you
like,
tired from?
Yeah.
I know that my child stays up till I've seen hours of the night. I know that. But I'm saying sometimes when a child tells you that they're tired, it's not
Yeah.
sleep.
That's why I
Yeah.
say, what are you
It's-
tired from?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Where-
not
where
sleep.
from?
Yeah.
Because they might have been up all night because mom and daddy are
Right.
arguing. Or
Yeah.
they have to they have to look after their siblings.
Right, right.
Or they're out all night doing something they're
Right.
not supposed to,
Be
but
doing.
they have to provide.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about teenagers. I'm
Mhm.
talking about 5, 6, 7,
7,
8 year. I'm
Right,
not
right.
saying
Yeah.
a 5, 6, 7, 8 year old is providing,
Mhm.
but I'm saying they're up hearing
Hearing
things that are going on,
Exactly.
and they're like, I don't know what to do, and then they begin to compartmentalize, and they're like, well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna put all that stuff away because I got to put on this face at school. But
Yep.
you can
Right.
tell, you can tell. You can
And let me ask
definitely
you this. I
tell.
mean, just talking about the attitude and mannerisms.
Mhm.
Let's just look at clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, which is such a big deal.
Yes.
It's been a big deal since we were kids, right?
Mhm.
There were people who didn't feel good because they didn't have certain things.
Yeah.
And I thought about it many years ago, in doing some mentoring, and I was speaking with counselors, and what I noticed is it looked like the only thing they were doing was disciplining kids.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at them and noticing that this kid has a hole in his shoe,
Yeah.
and you have a hole in your shoe or your clothes or whatever the case,
Mhm.
and you don't feel good about yourself,
Yeah.
let alone if the other students are making fun.
Right.
So kind of redefining
Yeah.
the position of public counseling and public education.
Yes.
I think is something that's important, because I mean, as I grew up, only thing I knew counselors did was discipline.
Yeah.
I didn't know they asked nobody what the hell was wrong. I didn't know they actually counseled.
Yeah.
I just thought you go to the counselor and you get a tardy pal, you in trouble.
Yes.
That's it. Nobody knew that they were actually supposed to help somebody get better.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we take that child that had the hole in their shoe and the holes in their clothes and they didn't smell the best, and you go and you take and I don't care if it's to Goodwill and you got them a brand new pair of shoes, I guarantee you that walk will look different,
Mhm.
that talk will look different, and their attitude will change, because like you said, when you look good, you feel
Yeah.
good. And if you're not able to tell anyone, like I just
Right.
the water wasn't hot yesterday.
Right.
So, or we all have to take a shower for 5 minutes and it's
Mhm.
6 of us at home,
Yeah.
or we all sharing the bed. So they're not getting adequate rest. So there's certain things and certain factors that go into that they may not tell you. But like you said, you can look at them and see, like you can look at some adults and see.
And so you would say a lot of these factors are the things that eventually can evolve into the behavior of bullying,
Absolutely.
and sometimes can evolve into some behavior, or it can lead to some things that could lead a child to consider,
Yes.
so I'm tired, suicide,
Tired.
suicide
I'm
and
tired.
bullying, some these instances.
Yes, it starts with bullying most of the time. They want you to feel how they feel, and maybe it's like, if you feel how I feel, you can understand where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Can you, as we're closing out the show, because we're at 12:59 right now, can you give us some warning signs of suicide within teens?
The biggest thing is if your child becomes either very distant or very clingy. If they begin to like seclude themselves from their friends, especially if you have a child that's sociable,
Yeah.
if they start giving away their things like their gaming systems,
Mhm.
and they're they don't want their phone anymore, toys,
Prized
that stuff, like
possessions. Mhm.
yes, that's very important. If they start writing a lot of like negative things, or a lot of their social media,
Mhm.
those are the big warning signs. The smaller ones are like more so of they don't want to eat, and that might not sound like a big thing because nowadays like kids eat, they don't eat, whatever.
Right.
But if they don't eat, if they're not drinking, if they're not like hygienically
Mhm.
taking care of themselves,
Okay.
and if they start like if you start noticing the crowd they hang in has shifted into, you know, maybe more negative crowd, negative self-talk, things like that. And the biggest thing is, you know, a lot of times now kids are like, when they get angry, the first thing they say is, I'm going to kill myself. I always say, I don't care if they say it 100 times, you believe them every single time.
You do.
Okay. Well, that's man, that's some great information, Bree. Hopefully everyone who's listening has taken some notes. Again, another fabulous show, packed with information. And I'm going to say that we probably need to do this again because there's so much information on both sides when we talk about suicide, when we talk about bullying, when we talk about the Parenting Millennium Conference that Rubs is going to be sponsoring in the community in North Tulsa. When we talk about that, you know, but we'll figure that part out. But
no, I got you.
we know
Whatever
he
y'all
wants
need,
to
I got
lead,
you.
you know. So again, we're gonna have to do this again. Bree, you gonna come back?
I'll come back.
So we can go a little, we go a little further in depth on some other
Definitely.
things. It's
Because there's a lot of statistics out there we didn't get to touch. You know, especially within the Tulsa County. So
we have to do a part two, just to kind of put it in perspective
Okay.
and ring the alarm a little louder.
Yeah, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
May is Mental Health Awareness. So we're gonna bring Bree back before the month is over.
Awesome.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, is that good, Sharita?
Sounds
We
great.
can do that. Let's hook that up.
All right.
Okay. All right, let's make that happen. So again, we are at the top of the hour. We do have to go off the air, but I do want to remind everybody that the North Tulsa Community Music Festival is coming up June 5th, 2021, 12 p.m. It's going to be located at the KBOB 89.9 studios, 1533 Norfolk Avenue and Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of the original Black Wall Street. Don't forget that North Tulsa Community Music Festival, June 5th. Put that on your calendar. Other than that, again, this is Improvement Coach Robert L. Caddy. I'm here with my partner in crime,
Sharita Sweet.
And thank you so much for our guest, ma'am.
You're welcome, Bree Wright.
Bree Wright's in the house, and she will be back. So other than that, we got to go, y'all. We'll see you next week and every Friday at 12 p.m. here at 89.9, KBOB 89.9. And also, I need you all to go to our Facebook page because you can watch this broadcast. If you're listening to us on the radio, you can go to Facebook 89.9 KBOB and you can look at this broadcast. You can share it. You can look at it 10, 12 times, 1,300 times.
And you can see all the old shows too.
You can see all the old shows as well, which we have some fabulous shows and some fabulous topics. So do go check us out. So, but other than that, again, we do thank you all for coming in and watching and listening with us. And we will see you next week. It's getting ready to happen some more.